What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Combat Corporation, your source of combat sports. I'm your host, Al the Postmaster Tomorrow, and today I have a gear review on the Sandee ABG1 Muay Thai training gloves. Alright folks, as always, I'm incredibly excited to bring you yet another gear review. As today we have another Muay Thai training glove classic. Today we have the ABG1 Muay Thai training gloves by Sandee, or these are actually called the authentic two-tone training glove, I believe is what they're called as well officially, and these gloves have been around for a very long time. Sandee, starting in 1977, made in Bangkok, is still a choice of champions across the board. They've been around for a long time, and all I've ever known about Sandee equipment, and you can even see some taglines online from different forums and stuff, is that they are one of the most robust builds when it comes to Muay Thai training gloves, and they're one of the more versatile Muay Thai gloves out there. And it says it right on the website when you read about this glove, that these gloves were specifically designed to work for all sports that involve punching, whether it be specifically boxing, Muay Thai, kickboxing, or MMA. And I, as a guy that's done all of it, do agree that these are for sure one of the more versatile gloves that I've ever tried as far as Muay Thai specific gloves go. But I guess they're not Muay Thai specific, they work for a bunch of other sports. They're still very popular in Thailand. You don't see them a lot in the United States, but they're very popular in Thailand with multiple local stadium shows or local shows in general using Sandee equipment. And they're also still very popular across Europe and especially the UK. I think back in the days of the old UFC clips, you saw guys like Dan Hardy hitting Sandee bags using Sandee Muay Thai gloves and MMA gloves. They do sell a bunch of different equipment like MMA gloves, shin guards, bags, shorts, apparel, anything you can think of. Michael Bisping I saw use Sandee back in the day. I even saw Rampage Jackson when he trained in the UK using those gloves as well. So Sandee's been around for a long time. It's still a choice by a lot of people in Europe, and in fact a lot of Dutch kickboxers I see use Sandee, and I can see why, but not very popular in the United States, probably because there's not a whole lot of retailers in the US that sell them directly. I actually bought these from James with Fight Equipment UK because there's some brands that he has on there that you just don't often see in the United States, and actually super cool guy. You ever need something that you can't get in the US, odds are my buddy James got them, and on top of it, he's competed in every combat sport, so I always trust him. So if you need to know anything about gloves, equipment, I always say reach out to Fight Equipment UK. I've been shopping through them for a long time. Got a lot of my Venom stuff that's not available in the States from him over the last few years. And of course, he also owns Players Equipment, which I love their stuff. And he'll steer you in the right direction, which is always good. And that's where I bought these Sandee gloves. And he says that Sandee, again, one of his best sellers ever since he opened up almost 20 or more years ago. And Sandee's basically used the same formula since 1977, which is absolutely crazy. And again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I'm really excited about this review. A lot of people have asked about these. I see why they are amongst the classics when it comes to Muay Thai training gloves. But let's go ahead and go into the exact model I got for you today. I got these in the two-tone blue and white coloration. I got them in the 16-ounce size and weight, and you can also get them in lace-up, but I chose to go with the hook and loop closure. You can get them in a couple different colors. They got some solid colors on there, but they also got like red and blue, black and yellow. I think they do have a couple other cool colorways like black and white. I did see there's like some fancier colorways on there. There's solid white. There's also a lace-up closure of the glove. It's virtually the same thing. Of course, you got the lace-up closure instead down the front. And you can also get them in 10, 12, 14, and 16 ounces. So they do range a pretty good range as far as variety goes. But again, for your reference throughout the rest of the video, I got them in the 16-ounce blue and white two-tone colorway in the hook and loop closure. We go ahead and go into the look of the glove. Sandee just has that classic logo to it, you know, the bold letters there. It even goes out past the oval a little bit to give you that nice pop out 3D texture. It has a nice white logo in the center, and it says Thailand right at the bottom, and of course you got your trademark logo right there. You can see that there's some white bordering around the red lettering, and it just looks really nice. And you got that Sandee pops right out, and it almost looks like a 2 or a Z instead of an actual S, almost like a snake almost. That blue is a really nice blue. The light reflects off it really nice, and you can see that it has that nice classic car look to it. It's a really nice shiny blue. You have that going throughout the thumb as well. When we go ahead to the thumb piping, the thumb attachment, that is also blue until you come over to the palm, and that's where that two-tone comes in, and that is a nice solid white. All the stitching is white as well, and it works so well with the blue on the outside. It gives it that really awesome classic martial arts look to it. Almost reminds me of those old school boxing gloves that you'd see guys like George Foreman training. You can see here that just as far as design goes too, we got some air holes in the center, give it that nice look. The piping itself is white, and then when we come on down to the actual wrist, you can see here it's a Sandee, and it says Thailand there. That's in blue. That's a cloth patch, more of an ivory white color. It says 16 ounce. It has a tag right there just to prove that these are indeed 16 ounces. Sandee in blue, and you can also see we got a blue border around the rest of the actual cloth patch itself. When we open the glove up, you can see that the piping on the wrist strap itself is white. Again, gives it that nice definition to it. We go ahead and turn it over to the other side. You can see the Velcro itself is black. This other part of the Velcro is black. When we open the glove up, of course, the base has that nice leather version right there. It's more of a synthetic leather to my feel. And you also have a black interior lining for the most part. And then the inner tag here says made in Thailand, and it says real leather with Sandee right there. Let's see if I can get it to focus in on that for you. Right there, real leather Sandee, and then made in Thailand. Perfect. I think it focused. Sometimes it's hard to see on the monitor, and I do not have the best eyesight. Now, when we go ahead and go into the actual build of the glove, we can talk about the outer shell being made out of a very nice top grain cowhide leather. And again, top grain is just meaning that's full grain, which is the best version, only they just shave the imperfections off. That way it's easier to work with. And that's basically to make the material more uniform to stitch with. And it's a super soft, supple leather, and compared to some other Thai gloves that really stretch it tight over the padding, it's nice and loose. And you do have a good amount. It's a little less than some other gloves out there, but it's still a good amount of leather. Super soft and buttery smooth. And just like a lot of other Thai leathers, has a really nice, sharp, clean scent to it. And you can tell that they use a chromium salt tanning process, but it still feels very, very good on the back of the hand. It's very soft throughout, and that dye did not affect the feel of the leather. Sometimes dyes, like blues, will make the leather feel a lot more thick. In this case, it feels nice, light, soft, and supple. And you have the same exact feeling on the palm when it comes to that white leather as well. You can also see the I keep saying natural grain marks throughout the leather itself, and you can see that a lot more. It's not just creasing, it's actually the grain marks, and that's just basically the same skin marks that you see in my skin. It's the same thing here. It just gives the leather a more authentic look to it, and that's basically what you have throughout the entirety of the glove. Now, when we talk about the padding of the glove, it's pretty soft, and usually a lot of gloves will use a 3-layer mold, and this is no exception. This is a 3-layered latex mold, and they say it has a firm core to it. And basically what that is there's usually an EVA foam layer at the base to keep the glove in its nice natural shape, and also to provide a little bit more protection towards the knuckles. Compared to some other Thai gloves though, I'll even strip that back a little bit, it is a much bigger top part of the glove. It is usually separated into two. You have the wrist cuff itself, then you have the 3-layered foam mold, and with that padding, it is a lot bigger. And you can see here that the padding has a good amount of give to it, especially when you crease in here, but when I go in a little bit more, you can feel that firm core want to snap right back. And so it definitely has that more of a puncher's glove feel. However, it has a good protective feel because it cradles the knuckles when you go ahead and sandwich in like that, and it pops right back out. You have the same padding that basically goes throughout the knuckles, that goes to the back of the hand as well, and that goes to the thumb. So that is all that one solid layer padding, free mold foam padding that you have there that forms one solid layer, I should say. It's actually a pretty soft give. And it has really nice feedback whenever you punch the bag with these gloves. And because the padding is like in that medium soft range, still protects the knuckles pretty well, so you can get that nice feedback. Has a really nice solid puncher's feel to it. The easiest way to word it, it feels like the same padding that you get with like an Everlast MX. It's that firmer style of puncher's glove is the way I would word it, which still feels really nice on the hand. When we talk about the thumb positioning, also compared to some Thai gloves, although it is more on the outside, so you can get a nice solid open glove for a clinch. That's where the top of the glove comes in. You can see that it is much taller than some other Thai gloves out there. You're able to open towards the top, and the thumb has more of a curved innard shape right here. And I think what that does is it has that big bow in the center, so you're able to get a nice solid clinch, but also have a very solid natural thumb position that you have compared to some other gloves. And it is one of the more natural fitting thumbs that I've tried from some other gloves, especially when it comes to Thai gloves. But it is a nice curved shape on the inside. It tucks in more naturally, just like this, and it allows you to open and close without jamming your thumb as well. You also have, again, the separate wrist strap, but for me, the wrist is in a perfect anatomical shape because you have the top part of the glove that matches your hand perfectly, and then right where your big wrist bone meets is right here at the top part of the wrist. And like a lot of other Thai gloves, you can see here, very, very hard EVA foam, again, so it wraps around your wrist and keeps it in a nice, comfortable position, and it also protects your wrist a little bit more. You can see because we have more of a top-heavy glove, obviously it's not going to be as balanced because most Thai gloves are not, but the one thing that's nice about it is that the foam on the back is so stiff and rigid that it's not going to go anywhere downward like this. So if I close it this way, you can see my wrist isn't bending easily at all. So you have really great wrist support in this glove. Even if I go this way, it's still taking a lot of pressure for me to do that. And look how fast it snaps my hand right back. So overall, the wrist is in a really nice, solid position compared to some other Thai gloves that really sacrifice wrist support. So overall, it's crossing the boxes as far as safety goes for our knuckles and for our wrists as well. When we come over to the palm, you can see here that we have a pretty firm wrist bar, or grip bar actually, and it mentions that on the website too. It says it has a really solid grip bar, so your hand's not going to slip out like some other gloves will. And you also have a pretty soft piping here on the inside of the thumb, compared to some other pipings that are really firm in Thai gloves. That is actually very soft and comfortable, so it allows you to open and close a lot easier. The other nice part about this is you have a pretty thick bar right here, so if you're training, you can catch some kicks and punches. Really good for partner drilling because you have really thick open cell foam here that breathes out a little bit. It feels more like a rubberized foam, but it's still firm enough to where it's going to catch some kicks, maybe some punches, really take some heat off of anything coming your way. So it's relatively thick compared to some other Thai gloves that I've tried, but not as thick as some others. When we go ahead and open this up, you got very strong wrist strap here. And when we talk about the interior lining, we can also talk about, like many other gloves, they have kind of that synthetic leather base. It does not feel like an authentic leather at the base. Also doesn't smell quite as good as the leather on the outside. It's so hard to tell sometimes with the leather on the inside because some gloves use it, some gloves don't. For me, it smells more like a synthetic leather. It feels like a half and half in between. So I'm going to go ahead and say it might be a synthetic leather lining at the base, but the rest of it is your standard stretched nylon that you have on the inside. And it is actually stretched pretty tight to the padding itself. So when you try the glove on, it fits very comfortably. The only thing that's uncomfortable for me is you can feel the slot of the padding that's firm, that EVA foam that really that layers there, or maybe it's a harder latex, pinches the top of my fingers down a lot. And I mentioned that when I unboxed it, and unfortunately that was the one part of the glove that never got better for me. It's similar again to the Everlast MX. Pinch the top of my fingers more than most. I will say again though, as far as wrist support goes, you can even see we got a bit of a splint in the center. It is in a nice natural fist position. My knuckles line up perfectly, and I can feel the outline of my knuckles a little bit, not a lot. Again, it's more of that firmer puncher's glove feel of that nice hard latex, so when you punch, you definitely feel like your knuckles go through, make contact, and pop back. But it definitely has more of a protective quality than, say, like a Cleto Reyes latex would. That's more of a soft give. This is more of a firm pushback is the way I would word it. And there, the clinch is absolutely awesome when it comes to this glove. I mentioned that the thumb position is very natural as far as the thumb fits and goes, but when we go ahead and open this glove up, it opens up very easily, and actually it's always in a constantly open position. The only thing I don't like about it is that you do have to squeeze very hard to keep the fist down, which can tire out the hand sometimes. But in general, super strong wrist control for grip, back of the arms, top of the head, back of the neck. Super great clinch, so it's very easy to move this. Again, I didn't mention it enough a couple seconds ago, so I just wanted to bring that in there. Super solid clinch, but making a fist, although natural and puts you in a nice natural fist position, you definitely have to squeeze pretty hard to keep that fist, which again can tire your hand out just a little bit too fast for my liking. So it protects your knuckles more than, say, I'd even say a Cleto Reyes. I'd say it protects your knuckles more than, say, a Fairtex BGV1, because the padding is just a touch rounded towards the top, but definitely has more of that flat feel of a puncher's glove, makes solid contact, and again, that wrist support is absolutely awesome. And on top of it, the glove stays on really well. And especially because the interior hand compartment is so big for a Muay Thai glove, you're able to wrap your hands up. So if you wanted to use them for boxing specifically, and you wanted to, say, have your trainer wrap your hands with gauze and tape, tons of room for that, tons of room for a knuckle guard, tons of room to have some extra padding on the inside there if you absolutely need it, to give you an even more safer puncher experience, which is awesome. So even if you have brittle knuckles, I wouldn't say this is the worst glove to try, because it has really good qualities. And the padding compared to some other Thai gloves is about as thick, if not a little bit thicker. But again, it's more of that firm latex feel. So when you make that solid contact, it protects your knuckles a lot more than a softer latex would. Your thumb, again, is in a really nice natural position. I've never once had my thumb pop out. It doesn't move out or in so much. It just makes a nice natural fist. And again, tucks right behind, gives you as close to that natural thumb position with your bare fist as it's going to out of most gloves that I've tried. So I really like that thumb position, and I like how soft it is on the side of the thumb. So I've never banged it, and even doing this, I don't feel it at all on the side. Even with my elbow, I don't feel that. So you have really nice soft padding on the side there to really cradle it. Same thing on the back of your hand. It feels like when you strap this glove on, it's hugging both sides of the hand to really compress everything in place and to stop shock from getting to your wrist to begin with. But of course, if you're a boxer and you don't want a short wrist cuff, get the lace-up version, because naturally lace-ups are going to have a little bit better of wrist support or hand protection in general, because it's going to be able to cinch a little bit easier. But when it comes to this, really natural feel. Again, the only thing I don't like is that my fingers do feel quite pinched at the tips, and that's the one thing I would change about it, and that could just be an anatomical thing with me. In general, feels pretty good. Wrist support is solid. Knuckle protection is solid. Overall, very comfortable so far. It's actually very soft in the back of my fingers when you touch up towards the top here, and that's maybe that softer latex that I'm feeling. But in general, I wish that carried a little bit further past, so it wouldn't pinch my fingers so much. Overall, really comfortable fit and feel so far. So let's go ahead and go into the bag work, and then we'll come back with my final thoughts. I really enjoy hitting the bag with these gloves because they have that awesome forward punching pressure, and although they are a Thai glove with that classic 3-layered molded foam, they have a nice Mexican puncher's glove feel, and as I mentioned before, they feel close to like an Everlast MX, that memory foam latex feel. As you can see, the clinch is really good because the hands are always wide open. You do have to close your fists a little bit tighter than some other gloves, but I do like that. Overall, it's a really nice balance for a Thai glove because it's taller and a little bit wider. Definitely still more top heavy. The wrist support's absolutely awesome because of that big wrist strap. So if you want a Thai glove that has excellent wrist support, this is a great option for you. Tons of hands on the tons of room on the inside of the hand compartment. So overall, it's just an awesome experience on the bags, the pads. They're not too heavy, they're not too light, they're nice and balanced, and I like them a lot. Sometimes when I do these reviews, some gloves just pop out better on the camera than others, and these for sure do that. That blue coloration is awesome, and that Sandee logo pops out at you like a comic book strip, and it is absolutely awesome. I actually had a lot of people at the gym say, what brand are those? I've never seen those before. And they really liked the logo, and they liked how professional that they looked. Overall, I think these are a sharp pair of gloves to look at, and they are awesome. All right, folks, my final verdict here for the Sandee ABG1 Muay Thai training gloves is, just like it says on the website and like you see and read everywhere else, they are a robust glove that are built to last, and on top of it, they are incredibly versatile, and I love that. So I think if you're into any combat sport, whether it be boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, or MMA, this is a great glove to try, and I can see why these are considered Muay Thai training glove classics, but I can see why they're just a training glove classic in general. They're not as popular as I wish they were in the US, because I can think of a bunch of people I'd recommend these gloves to. I had one of my teammates try them out for a week or two as well, not too long ago, and he loved them, and he's getting his own pair, which is absolutely awesome. But when it comes to these gloves, they've been pleasantly surprising throughout the entirety of their use. I've really enjoyed them, and I think they are a steal for some. I see why they're so popular across the UK and Europe, and of course, they're still very popular in Thailand. But as always, guys, let's go into the things that I like about the glove, some things that I change about the glove, and then we'll go into my final rating. But before I do any of that, I wanted to mention, because I talked about this very briefly earlier, that this glove reminds me of another one almost to a T. And funny enough, that would be the Everlast MX. And the one funny part about this is that when I did the review of the Everlast MX, I mentioned compared to, say, a Clitoris, which has a very soft latex feel, this is more of a firm memory foam latex feel that you would like rest your head on as a pillow, or you'd want to sleep on. It had more knuckle protection because of that. I think that's why a lot of people like MX when it comes to training and to fight gloves, because they have that awesome give to it. But the one thing is, the leather feels very similar. I'd say the leather's softer in the Sandee glove. I'd say the padding is virtually identical. This is an 18-ounce glove. This is 16, but still, the padding is virtually identical. I'd say it's a little bit softer in the Sandee glove, but besides that, they feel virtually identical, and they almost look identical, except for this being red, this being blue. You even have the white palm, which is kind of cool. But big thing I wanted to throw out there is that I got these gloves for over $200 a few years ago. I got these for about 103 bucks. So it's kind of up to you of what you want to do. But I think if you want to try something very similar to an MX, believe it or not, you know, that's the one part about having all the gloves I have, is I'm able to kind of figure those things out. That's just my humble opinion for what it's worth to some. Some of you guys will be like, there's no way they feel like the MX. Or some of you guys have tried the Sandee and you're like, no, he's dead wrong. For me, the way I punch, the way I feel, they feel very similar. But with that said, let's go into the things I like about the glove. Just like I said at the beginning, they're robustly built. They are very well known for being durable and very high quality. And that's what you have here when it comes to Sandee's gloves that I've noticed, especially with these. And that's why I'm excited to try their MMA gloves or their shin guards down the line, because these feel absolutely awesome. And you can see why they've been in use since 1977, why people keep going back to them. They work and they last a long time. And that's what you can read on multiple different forums, different reviews, is that they are very high quality. There's not been a chip in the leather. There's not been a nick anywhere on the glove. It looks and feels the same of when I got it out of the box, of course, minus the the break-in process. Obviously, the glove got a little bit softer, as all gloves will. The stitching hasn't popped out anywhere. Nothing has gotten loose or frayed. Nothing feels worn. Everything feels still really solid. And when I tried these gloves out, I beat them up like I would put them through a full fight camp as a professional mixed martial artist. So I have every glove I try on for at minimum 8 to 10 rounds a day on bag work alone, because I am a workhorse when it comes to bag work. And those are 3-minute rounds. If not, often I do 5-minute rounds, because that's just the work rate that I want to put in for myself. But when it comes to these gloves, super durable. And funny enough, years ago, there was a JRE MMA episode, Joe Rogan Experience MMA, and Dan Hardy mentioned that he was still using his Sandee Muay Thai bag, and Joe Rogan thought he meant Sandee, as in it was Sandee at the base of the bag, like sand, but no, he meant this. And he mentioned that he used Sandee equipment still, and you can still see that Dan Hardy, go back to his old pictures and stuff, use Sandee equipment, which I think is awesome. So yes, even guys like that are still throwing homage to Sandee, and you can actually go through that podcast and check that out. I did before this, just so I felt like I wasn't making it up. As far as the quality for price that you're getting, again, 103 bucks is what I see on Sandee's website, and I think I got these for about, whatever 87 pounds would be from Fight Equipment UK, which I think comes to about 103 to 105 bucks plus shipping. I think I paid a total of like 125 bucks total, which for me, compared to some other gloves out there, that is an absolute steal, and that is a perfect competitive price for a professional level glove nowadays. I can think of some other gloves that I would prefer these over, such as like the Windy Combat Sports traditional Muay Thai training gloves, which goes for around the same price. I'd prefer these compared to the Fairtex BGV1. I'd say there's some other gloves around that $100 price point where I would compete with these. Like, you know, Lock is a new brand that I really like, and I would say some people would prefer Sandee over the Lock brand. I'd say some people would prefer these over, say, Spartacus, or looking around, there's some other brands. I think compared to half of Everlast catalog, I'd prefer these just as much, if not right there with an Everlast Power Lock, things like that, depending on the type of glove that you want. I think they're just as good as the MX because I think they feel identical to the MX. So that tells you as far as a training glove goes. I've never tried the Fight glove, don't really get Fight gloves, so that is going to change this year, by the way, guys. But that's a different story. I like these a little less than, say, Booster. I like Booster quite a bit, but I'd say I like these around the same as like the Triumph United gloves that I've tried and the Combat Corners. I think these are very, very well made. The other thing that's nice about them is that compared to some other Thai gloves, and if I take, say, a Fairtex BGV1 here, you can notice that compared to most Thai gloves that are shorter, fatter, and stockier, this is a taller and wider glove that you have going on here, and it has more of that Western style boxing glove shape to it with the same qualities of a Thai glove, like that open thumb to get a nice solid clinch, which is nice. So when I put the glove on, you can see that I'm opening and closing very easily to get that nice solid clinch, as I mentioned earlier, with my very rare outtake that I do because I want to make sure I'm covering all my bases. But when it comes to the fit and feel of the glove, it's a very nice stretched nylon on the inside. It dries out very quickly. Same thing for that leatherette at the bottom. I still can never tell if it's real or not real leather, if I'm honest. Sometimes it feels more like a synthetic on the inside. Some gloves feel more real, some gloves don't. So I'm just gonna err on the side of caution, say it's not. Obviously the leather here is all real cowhide leather, but when we put our hand on the inside, tons of room for padding. So if you want to do boxing in these gloves, you can, which is absolutely awesome because there's tons of room on the inside. If you want to use your trainers, you know, gauze and tape to wrap your hands, or if you want to use a big knuckle guard in these, it's perfect. And on top of it, when you cinch the Velcro, it hugs the entirety of the back of your hand and your wrist, has a really nice natural punch position as well. And the other nice thing about it is that although it's a latex mold, it's a firmer latex, so it gives you that nice puncher's feel, but it still cradles your knuckles. I'm still feeling my knuckles go through and kind of recoil back, but it doesn't feel like they're caving in through the padding like, say, a Cleto Reyes latex glove that has so much give to it that I wouldn't recommend it to you if you have brittle hands. If you have brittle hands, or softer hands, weaker hands, whatever word you want to use, I could still see you getting away with these, although latex doesn't always protect the knuckles quite as much. But the one positive is that you can notice this glove is a lot more rounded compared to some other Thai gloves, so you are getting a little bit more separation between your knuckles and the target itself. So it does emphasize knuckle protection a little bit more than most Thai gloves that I'm going to talk about on the channel here. But overall, nice, comfortable fit and feel, really solid wrist support because the wrist aligns right here, right over the big wrist bone, and keeps it nice in shape. And also tons of room on the inside. And guess what? If it's not good enough wrist support for you, there's a lace-up option, which I think I might try down the line just to get a look at. But again, if you're doing all different sports, I would definitely look into trying these gloves. Some of the things that I would change about the glove, though, again, which this is where some boxers might be like, okay, now you're starting to scare me a little bit. For one, the tip of the fingers definitely is a little tight. That's the one thing I didn't like, is the tip of the fingers is so tight. Sometimes I actually felt like the circulation to the tips of my fingers were kind of cutting off a bit. So what I do is I take a shirt or a towel and I just shove it on the inside so it opens the top up. But that does kind of settle back down and it's very firm. So instead of having my fingers crawled all the way on the inside here, I do find myself crawling out a little bit and relying more on the grip bar itself, the grip, which still gives you a nice protective fist, and it still works just as well in my opinion. That's why the grip bar is there, actually, so you can grip it perfectly. It's still, I prefer my finger to be at the outside, but still pretty tight for some reason. I don't really like that, so that could be one thing I could change, and it could also be the fact that I have fat fingers. You never know. The other thing about it is that the glove is almost always fixed in this naturally open position, and when you squeeze, you do have to squeeze a little bit harder than most gloves that I've tried. Not so tight to where it feels like I'm gonna break something on the inside with my grip, but tight enough to where I do have to notice a bit of a difference. And I can see some people that aren't used to keeping their fists squeezed the whole time, that it could cause some fatigue. That's a little bit faster. It'll burn out your hands, which will then burn out your forearm, your elbows, your shoulders, just a little bit faster. But for me, not the biggest issue. I can see some people getting annoyed with that. The lining on the inside as well at the very top of the fingers does bunch up here or there, so you do have to combat that here or there, but not too often. In fact, when your finger's on the inside, it's pretty much on the inside. But the one thing I wish it did, although it has great wrist support, and although I don't have hand wraps on right now, my hand does slide down a bit, and I do notice that happens, like my fingers now are right on the grip bar. Just from opening my hand a little bit. I do notice with taller Thai gloves, like say the Triumph United gloves, or the Primo gloves, or even the Combat Corner gloves, that tends to happen. And that could just very well be the shape of the glove and the way my hands are. I have very short fingers, but in general, I do find that my hand will creep out a little bit, even with hand wraps on. However, right now it's going to happen a little bit more. If the ventilation holes really don't do much either. I mean, I don't care because your hands are going to sweat inside of a boxing glove, sorry to tell you. But some people may want more of a ventilation on the inside, but I'm never going to knock points for that. Because again, just if you need your gloves to air out, take them out of your bag. Don't leave them in overnight. But overall, still a really nice, comfortable fit. Really protective puncher's glove, in my opinion. Great wrist support. Awesome thumb positioning. Super natural thumb positioning. I don't feel like my thumb's ever jammed in this unnaturally. And again, just to show you like how nice and solid that padding is, it is super soft in the back of my hand, and I don't feel any negative impact on the glove itself. So really good protective qualities. So if I were to give these gloves a rating out of 10, especially for how versatile they are and how good they are across all sports, I would definitely have to put them in, you know, especially compared to some other gloves out there, I'm going to put them right with the Muay gloves I talked about. I'm going to give them a solid A tier for a great glove, and I'm going to put them with a 9 out of 10, which is still an awesome glove. I don't put them in the S as excellent because they're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. For me, an excellent glove would work for virtually everybody. I think this glove will work for a lot of people, but I think there are some things that I would still fix. Namely, the hand compartment has just a couple issues that are just nagging annoying, and that's about it, and that's my biggest nitpick. And sometimes when you get to gloves like these, you just gotta nitpick a little bit. They pinch the tips of my fingers just a little bit too much, which, you know, some people are gonna be like, oh, wag, get over it. But still, if you're using the glove every day, you want it to fit your hand like it's just an extension of your hand, not like it's a glove on the hand, is the way I always word it. But in this case, super, super comfortable. As far as everything else goes, as far as the back of the hand, the back of the wrist fits really comfortable. It's just the top part past your knuckles where it feels like the bagging, the liner is just a little bit too baggy. It pinches your fingers just a little bit too much. And on top of it, it's just a little firm towards the top. That might be a little annoying for some. And when I have to close my fist because it is constantly in that natural, you can even see it now, it's just open, super wide open, which some gloves are, some gloves aren't. You do have to squeeze a little bit tighter to make that fist. And again, if you're not used to squeezing a little bit tighter, can cause fatigue just a little bit faster, but it's still not that big a deal. So that's why I don't really knock another point off for that, but it definitely is noticeable. But a lot of gloves I've tried do the same thing. Similar to the glove that I mentioned, this glove is very similar to as far as the Everlast MX. And I said similar a lot just now, but stick with me. All right, I've been at it for a bit, but basically, I love that these are durable. I think everything by Sandee that I've read has, you know, a really durable glove. It's going to last you a long time, which is always good. Again, there's not a nick in the leather, not a bubble in the padding. It has lasted very, very well for the 7.5 months that I've had these, and I've used them a lot. And I actually had another teammate that I know doesn't take as good care of his equipment because they're always falling apart, use them, and they still came back to me after 2 weeks of daily use looking brand new, which is always good because if they look bad, I would have been angry. That's why I don't often let people borrow my stuff, because they always return it as worse than when I gave it to them. But that's a different story. Overall, a great glove, and that's one thing I love about it. And again, $103 compared to some other brands out there, that is a killer deal, I think. And you just got to wait maybe a week or two for it to show up if you're buying it from outside the United States. I don't really see many U.S. vendors selling these, but you might find one that I don't even know about. But I bought these from Fight Equipment UK. James, the best in the business, he knows everything about equipment. And if you need help, let him know. And let him know Al sent you. He'll take care of you. Maybe, I don't know. Scratch that part, because I don't have a discount or anything. But that's a different story. Guys, thank you so much for checking out this video. I hope you really enjoyed these as far as I did. I think they're an excellent glove. I think they're a great versatile glove. I think if you're doing any sport, give them a shot. I really think you should give them a shot if that's the case. And let me know what you think when you do give them a shot. Let me know if I hit the nail on the head. Of course, if I missed anything, comment below and let me know. And of course, like and subscribe, as it goes a long way to help the channel. We're already at 13,000 subscribers, which is absolutely crazy. And of course, hit the notification bells for reviews just like these in the future. Also, share these with your friends. Maybe they're looking into Sandees, or they need to see some other gear reviews that I have featured on the channel. And of course, let me know what you want to see reviewed next on the channel as well. As always, follow me on my social media pages. I'm primarily active on Instagram, and you can see all my links in the description below how to contact me. A lot of people have been emailing me lately, so go ahead and do that too. And I love to answer and meet all of you guys. With that said, thank you so much for choosing your source for combat sports, the Combat Corporation. I've been your host, Al the Postmaster Morrow, and as always, I'll see you on the next episode. Have a great day, everybody.